Beneath the restless waves of southern Japan, a shadow waits. Divers who descend into the cold depths speak of the moment when fish scatter, the light dims, and a vast shape slowly emerges from the gloom. It is not coral. It is not a reef. Instead, step-like terraces, towering walls, and sharp-edged corridors rise from the seabed as if carved by the hand of some forgotten architect. They call it the Yonaguni Monument. To some, it is nothing more than the work of nature's stone fractured by time, sculpted by currents, an illusion of order and chaos. But what if it isn't? What if these lines so precise, these platforms so deliberate, are not the accident of erosion, but the last traces of a civilization erased from history? Legends in Japan whisper of islands swallowed by the gods, of cities that vanished overnight beneath the waves. Across the world, Plato spoke of Atlantis. In India, myths recall Lemuria, a lost land beneath the ocean. Could Yonaguni be another fragment of that universal memory? A ruin drowned by time, a message half buried in silence. Skeptics dismiss it as coincidence. Believers call it proof. Yet standing before those underwater steps, the mind wavers. If it is only rock, then the ocean has played a cruel trick. But if it was built, then everything we know about the dawn of civilization may have to be rewritten. In 1986, on a quiet day off the coast of Yonaguni Island, the westernmost edge of Japan, a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake slipped beneath the waves. He wasn't searching for history, only fish. But as he drifted along the seafloor, something vast rose before him, cutting through the blue haze of the water. At first, he thought it was a cliff, a natural outcropping. Yet the more he circled it, the more impossible it seemed. Sharp right angles, terraces that looked like staircases, a flat rectangular platform like a stage or altar, massive blocks that appeared aligned, not scattered. It was as if he had stumbled into a city abandoned to the sea. Aratake returned to the surface, shaken his oxygen tank nearly empty, his mind racing with the memory of stone walls where no walls should exist. Word spread quickly. Other divers came bringing cameras and lights. Grainy footage soon reached the surface world where scientists, journalists, and dreamers began to argue. What exactly had been found beneath the waters of Yonaguni? Some saw the discovery as proof of a lost Japanese Atlantis. They pointed to the monument's shape, a stepped pyramid, nearly 150 meters long, rising like a fortress from the seabed. There were straight walls, corridors, even what looked like a grand staircase plunging into the deep. To the eyes of believers, the structure had intention written all over it. No wave, no current, they said, could cut stone so cleanly. Among the strongest voices was Professor Masaaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus. After diving at Yonaguni over and over again, he became convinced the monument was the work of ancient hands. Kimura mapped what he claimed were pillars, paved streets, and even a stadium-like space large enough to hold thousands of people. He spoke of an advanced society that may have lived in Japan more than 10,000 years ago, before the last ice age ended, when sea levels were far lower than today. But not everyone agreed. Geologists countered with their own explanations. The monument, they argued, was nothing more than sandstone fractured along natural fault lines. Yonaguni lies in a region of earthquakes where tectonic stress splits rock into neat angles and terraces. Add centuries of waves and currents, they said, and you get a structure that only looks man-made to the human eye. Nature, not civilization, carved these shapes. The debate only deepened with every dive. Kimura claimed to see carving symbols etched into stone, images of turtles and faces that might hint at ancient religion. Critics dismissed them as pareidolia, the human tendency to see patterns in randomness. Believers pointed to what looked like roads and gates. Skeptics saw cracks and gullies. One side called it a city, the other an illusion. The controversy grew beyond geology and archaeology. It became a question of belief, of imagination, of how much mystery the modern world is willing to allow. Divers who swam among the monument's vast steps often described a feeling of awe, of being watched by the ghost of something that once was. Some said they felt as though they were exploring a drowned palace, its halls silent but waiting. By the 1990s, Yonaguni had already become a legend. Tourists flocked to the island eager to glimpse the Japanese Atlantis. Magazines and television specials spread dramatic images of divers gliding along towering walls, casting beams of light into corridors that seemed too perfect to be natural. The more the world saw, the more divided it became. Was Yonaguni Monument a trick of nature, or the tombstone of an entire civilization erased by the sea? No answer was found.
It's just
Only
a trick of the mind.
Questions that grew sharper with each
The mystery
discovery,
continues
each
at the
photograph,
Yonaguni
each whispered
Monument,
tale of ruins
a testament
beneath the
to an
waves.
ancient civilization.
The Yonaguni Monument
so
does not stand
exciting!
alone. Across the world, cultures separated by oceans
I know,
and
look at that
centuries tell
water.
strangely similar stories of lands swallowed by the sea, of civilizations erased in a single night. Each tale feels like an echo, as though humanity itself remembers something it cannot quite name. In Japan, where Yonaguni lies hidden, the Ryukyu, legends speak of Urashima Taro, a fisherman carried beneath the sea to a hidden palace. When he returned, centuries had passed.
Across
The sea in these myths is not only a barrier, but a gate, one that opens into realms of memory loss and forgotten kingdoms. Other tales from Okinawa recall islands punished by the gods drowned for arrogance, their people silenced forever beneath the waves. Travel westward, and the pattern deepens. The Greek philosopher Plato described Atlantis more than 2,000 years ago, an island empire advanced beyond measure, destroyed in a single day and night of storms and earthquakes, swallowed whole by the sea. For centuries, Atlantis was dismissed as allegory, but the image remains an advanced civilization lost beneath the ocean, waiting to be rediscovered. To some, Yonaguni is that rediscovery. Its terraces are Atlantis reborn in the waters of Japan. Farther south in the Indian Ocean, another legend whispers Lemuria. Hindu myths tell of Kumari Kandam, a vast land where Tamil civilization once flourished until the waves rose and devoured it. In the 19th century, Western naturalists borrowed the tale to explain the distribution of lemurs and other species across Madagascar and India, naming the lost continent Lemuria. Though the science was later disproven, the myth endured a land bridge, a drowned kingdom, a memory written into both culture and geology. And then there is Nan Madol, a city of stone built on a coral reef in Micronesia, less than 2,000 kilometers from Yonaguni. Known as the Venice of the Pacific, it is a labyrinth of basalt towers and canals whose origins remain mysterious. Oral traditions claim giants built it, carrying massive stones as if they weighed nothing. To wander through Nan Madol is to step into a myth made solid.
That's highly unlikely.
That civilizations have risen and fallen in the Pacific before. Could Yonaguni have been another? What is striking is not just the monuments themselves, but the shared memory. Why do cultures on opposite sides of the world preserve the same story? The flood, the destruction, the kingdom beneath the sea. In Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh tells of a deluge that erased humanity. In the Bible, Noah builds his ark to survive rising waters. In Mesoamerica, the Maya speak of suns destroyed by flood and fire. Always there is a beginning drowned, a knowledge lost. To skeptics, Yonaguni is only rock, but to those who listen to these echoes, it becomes something else, a missing chapter in a universal tale. The monument is not merely Japanese, it belongs to every myth of a land that once was and is no longer. Perhaps the sea itself is the author. Every coastline holds ruins, villages pulled beneath the tide temples, broken by tsunamis, ports drowned by earthquakes. Each culture weaves these real disasters into myth until disaster becomes legend, and legend becomes memory. Yonaguni in this sense may be both a natural formation sculpted by chance and a canvas onto which humanity has projected its oldest fear, the sea reclaiming what we thought was ours. Yet standing before its terraces, one cannot escape the thought, if so many cultures remember the same story, is it still just a story, or is it a memory we are all still trying to surface? When divers first captured images of Yonaguni, it was easy to believe the monument was man-made. The steps seemed too straight, the walls too precise, the corridors too deliberate. But science demands more than impressions, it demands evidence. Geologists studying Yonaguni point first to the island's natural foundation. The seabed here is made of sandstone and mudstone materials that fracture cleanly along horizontal and vertical planes. In a region shaken constantly by earthquakes, it is not unusual for massive blocks of rock to split into terraces and sharp angles. To them, Yonaguni is nothing more than nature's geometry exaggerated by erosion and time. Waves grind against the stone currents, scour the edges, and the result is a formation that looks deceptively architectural. But not all scientists agree. Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist at the University of the Ryukyus, spent decades diving the site, and he is convinced the monument is no accident. In his surveys, he claims to have found pillars, stone roads, drainage channels, and even carvings etched into the walls. He mapped features that resemble staircases leading to plazas and terraces aligned, as if for ceremonies. To Kimura, Yonaguni was a city, perhaps even the capital of a civilization that flourished before the last ice age, when sea levels were more than 100 meters lower. If Kimura is correct, the site could date back 10,000 years or more centuries before the rise of Egypt, Sumer, or the Indus Valley. Such a claim would rewrite the story of human civilization, suggesting that advanced societies existed in Japan long before history records them. Critics, however, remain unmoved. They argue that Kimura's so-called carvings are nothing more than natural striations. His roads are fracture lines. His stadium is a depression carved by currents. The human eye, they say, is too eager to find patterns, to see temples where there are only cliffs, to see faces where there are only shadows. Dating the site adds another layer of difficulty. Because Yonaguni lies underwater, no organic remains, no wood bone, or pottery have been found that could confirm its age. Without such evidence, archaeology cannot place it within a known culture. If it was man-made, then its builders remain nameless, their memory erased not only from history,
This is it, the proof
but
we've
from
been
myth
waiting
itself.
for.
Still, the debate
It is
refuses
simply
to
an
die.
illusion, nothing
Divers
more than
continue to report
pareidolia.
structures that feel intentional. A flat platform resembling a stage, a triangular archway, terraces stacked like ziggurats. Kimura insists he has seen tool marks cut into the stone, signs that chisels or hammers once shaped it. Other scientists dismiss these claims, pointing out that underwater visibility is poor and the mind often completes patterns that aren't truly there. Yet perhaps the most haunting evidence comes not from tools, but from context. Around the world, entire cities have slipped beneath the sea. In India's Gulf of Combat sonar surveys reveal
Our
ruins
analysis
now
clearly
submerged.
shows these tool marks.
Off the coast of
simply
Greece,
do not
ancient
see what you
harbors lie
claim to see.
underwater.
It's an illusion
Even in
caused by
Japan
poor
itself,
visibility.
temples and villages were swallowed by tsunamis within recorded memory. If so much history has been lost to the ocean, why not more? Why not Yonaguni? The monument hovers at the edge of certainty. Too strange to dismiss, too uncertain to prove. A place where science and imagination collide, leaving only questions suspended in the dark waters of the Pacific. Yonaguni is not just a question of geology, it is a mirror of the human imagination. Whether carved by hands or by waves, its form carries meaning. To gaze upon the terraces and steps beneath the sea is to see not only stone, but symbol. At its heart, the monument evokes the image of a pyramid, a shape humanity has long associated with power, memory, and transcendence. From Egypt to Mesoamerica, pyramids rise as mountains of stone connecting earth to sky, man to God. Yonaguni, in contrast, inverts that image. It is not a mountain reaching upward, but a pyramid descending into the depths. Where other monuments point to the heavens, this one vanishes into darkness, as if guiding souls not skyward, but downward into the forgotten. The sea itself is central to the symbolism. In Japanese myth, the ocean is more than water. It is a threshold, a shifting border between the world of the living and the realm of the spirits. Fishermen cast offerings into the waves, knowing the sea is alive, hungry, and divine. To imagine an entire monument submerged in that liminal space is to imagine a shrine between worlds, half of stone, half of water, belonging fully to neither. The stepped platforms suggest ritual. In every culture, steps lead upward to temples, to altars, to thrones. Here, the steps lead only to silence. What ceremonies might once have been performed there? Processions of priests walking down into the sea. Sacrifices offered where the earth meets the ocean. Even if the structure is natural, its shape invites these questions because the human mind cannot separate form from function. We see a stage and we imagine a performance. We see a temple and we imagine worship. For Japan, a nation bound by the sea, Yonaguni resonates with deeper meaning. The country has always lived at the mercy of water typhoons, tsunamis, tidal waves that erase villages overnight. Entire generations have grown up with the knowledge that the ocean both gives and takes. Yonaguni in this light becomes a monument to impermanence, a reminder that nothing built by human hands can stand against the tide. Even the absence of proof becomes symbolic. Yonaguni represents the fragility of memory. If it is natural, then it shows how easily we project our myths onto the world around us. If it is man-made, then it shows how easily entire civilizations can be erased, leaving behind only fragments, too ambiguous to speak clearly. In either case, the meaning is the same. The ocean is a vault, and within it lie stories too vast and too heavy to lift to the surface. Perhaps this is why Yonaguni lingers in the imagination. It is not only stone, but a metaphor for humanity itself, caught between certainty and mystery, between what is built and what is lost, between the hope that we were greater than history remembers and the fear that we will be forgotten in the same way. Yonaguni, then, is not simply a monument. It is a symbol of our oldest question: what lies beneath the waves, and what part of ourselves is already buried there. What makes the Yonaguni Monument so haunting is not only the stone itself, but the questions it raises about humanity's memory. Whether it is a natural formation or the ruin of a forgotten city, the monument forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth: our past is not as certain as we believe. History as we write it is a fragile script. We trust in records, artifacts, and dates carved into stone. But Yonaguni reminds us that time does not preserve, it erases. The ocean covers, the earth shifts, and what we call civilization may one day vanish as completely as those terraces beneath
a civilization erased
If the monument was
without a
truly
trace.
built by human hands, then it suggests an entire chapter of human history has been lost, not through neglect, but through the simple indifference of nature. How many other chapters might be gone? How much of our story rests not in libraries or museums, but in silence? Philosophically, Yonaguni becomes a paradox. If it is only stone shaped by erosion, then it reveals the mind's need for meaning. We see a temple where there is none, because we cannot bear a world without story. Our imagination, restless and unsatisfied, fills the void. But if it is truly artificial, then the paradox deepens. It means human civilization is far older, far stranger, and far more fragile than we have ever dared to accept. This tension speaks to something larger. We live as though history is linear, a steady climb from primitive beginnings to modern achievement. But Yonaguni whispers a different possibility, that civilization is cyclical. That greatness rises, collapses, and is buried only to be rediscovered in fragments. If that is true, then perhaps we are not the first to stand at the edge of knowledge, gazing out into mystery.
Amazing, isn't it?
Perhaps we are only the latest.
Truly.
And there is another layer
It's even
still.
older than we thought.
The philosopher Nietzsche once said that man is the animal who must forget in order to live, but who must remember in order to act. Yonaguni embodies that dilemma. To dismiss it as natural is to forget to move forward unburdened by questions of lost worlds. To embrace it as man-made is to remember, but that memory burdens us with the weight of civilizations that failed, drowned, or were erased. Which path do we choose? Which truth do we prefer? In this way, the monument is less about stone and more about us. It reflects our desire to believe we are not alone in history, that others walked paths now lost, that our story is not the first nor the last. It also reflects our fear that no matter what we build, the sea will claim it, and us, and the memory of all we thought eternal. Yonaguni, therefore, is philosophy in stone. It is the question carved into silence. Is our past truly known, or is it only a shadow of something greater drowned? Before we ever had the chance to remember, the waves close over it again. Divers return to the surface, their bubbles vanishing into the sky, while the monument waits below in silence. Whether it is only stone, or the last remnant of a civilization older than memory, Yonaguni keeps its secrets well. Perhaps it is natural, an accident of geology shaped by time. But even if it is, why do we see more than stone? Why do the human eye and the human mind insist on reading intention into every terrace, every corridor, every shadowed wall? Is it because we have always known deep down that the ocean is full of graves? And if it is artificial, the questions become heavy. Who built it in an age when no written records exist? What hands shaped those steps? What people walked them before the sea claimed their world? And most troubling of all, if one city could vanish so completely, how many more lie buried beneath the waves, unimagined, unnamed? The Pacific is vast, the Atlantic deeper still. Entire continents could be hidden in the silence between tectonic plates, their stories erased by water and pressure. Yonaguni may only be the beginning. So we are left with a choice to believe it is nothing, or to believe it is everything. Either way, the monument endures an unanswered question carved into the seafloor. And it whispers to every diver who dares approach what else has been forgotten, and how much longer until the sea comes for us too.